When I look at the value of knowing the Asiatic calendar, I see a way of looking at time that's inclusive of civilizations, of original people from the past that, our current timeline, historical mainstream Gregorian timeline, ignores, pushes to the back, promotes questions about where we already have answers. So this is a way of seeing the world that's really not beneficial if you're trying to look at it, through the lens of the truth. Right? So knowing the Asiatic calendar, you're putting historical events on a timeline that's much larger in scope, and it includes these civilizations that existed that they're having more and more trouble covering up. So every time some big historical find, we've brought up Göbekli Tepe in the past, but we can talk about a number of different finds just over the last 15 or 20 years that have popped up where they have to say, hey, look, this timeline that we drew up, that we've been pushing for so many decades, right? It's starting to become clear that it's wrong. When you're trying to tell your story, right? If you're a European and your story doesn't really begin, strongly until 4,000 years ago, right? The more and more you start digging up information about civilizations that are 5,000, 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 more years old, the more and more sense the perspective of the Asiatic calendar makes, and the more and more obvious it becomes of why we've been spending this much time focused on this snapshot of history. So there's a lot of lessons to be learned there. Yacub's story has a lot to it, and that's once again why I always have to stress that you be led through it personally by another person when you're going through these lessons, because one example of that would be, you could read the Yacub story in the lesson book all you want to, but you're not going to be able to talk about dissatisfaction, right? That's at the center of the Yacub story, but that word isn't even used in the lesson book, right? So you're going to have to be led through that by a person who's qualified, right? And then just like the Asiatic calendar, right? There is no Asiatic calendar in 120. You don't fold out and see the calendar. You have to piece the calendar together bit by bit, and those questions arise naturally and get answered in a natural way. So then you walk away from it with a big picture understanding, So when that's drilled into your head, how valuable is it to have the details, the names and the dates of the Yacub story in your head? What's that going to do for you, right? Well, after you memorize it for many years, the unuseful things start to fall away, right? And the things that are useful about the lessons start to sink deeper and deeper in. So in other words, I'm not just looking at life from the perspective of civilization and how that's unfolded and how we're looking at global white supremacy and those type of things. When I look at the Yacub story, I'm not just reminded of prior civilizations that existed, original people before Europeans came. That's not just what I'm focused on. I'm also looking at the fact that you can't be a parent, right, and watch a kid grow up, from a little baby, up and up and up, without being reminded of the Yacub story and all the dangers of that happening in real time to a child, right? Because anything grafted from the original makes devil. A lot of these kids, when they're born, I've taught a lot of little kids in the past, I see these windows of opportunity for them to be corrupted as they get older. They started out pretty damn good, and starting from their environment, and then I watch as a perfectly healthy kid, kind of gets corrupted over the years. And then that's literally watching devil being made from something that's original. Hopefully that's helpful about some of the questions regarding Yacub and the Asiatic calendar. Y'all guys have a fantastic fall and stay safe out there. Peace.